Welcome to Picture This. It's an ekphrastic response or a response to art where residents respond by writing. And in this particular video, which is the third of a three-part series, we're talking about photography and how residents respond to writing prompts of photography. So welcome. I'd like to also, before we start, thank the Erie County Council, their initiative for having a poet laureate in Erie County, and the work that they do in tandem with Erie Arts Culture to bring this to you. So we're going to get started with talking about how the types of poems that you might write by having these different prompts. You might have songs which are based on nature, and we'll give you some of those examples later on in this video. And you might write free verse, which is not fixed verse. It's just you set the rules and you break the rules of the type of poem that you write when it doesn't have a structure of its own that is recognized by, such as sonnets and limericks and songs. So let's get started. What I'm going to be asking you to do is to react and then respond. I know it sounds sort of contrary to what most people say, especially when you're talking. You're speaking in public too. If you're having a reaction, keep your mouth shut and then think about what you want to say and then respond so it sounds more polite. What I'm asking you to do when you're writing and you're responding to these prompts in writing is to react first. It doesn't matter what you are thinking, put that down on paper, because you have a much more true idea of your thought pattern when you go to look at it after you do a very quick write. And there's a lot of gems that are there that if you stop and censor yourself, that you're not going to find those things. So I'd like you to react and then get the thoughts down, and then when you go to put it into some kind of format, whether it is a fixed format or structured format, like a song or a sonnet or a limerick or a villanelle, or if it's unstructured or free verse that you create on your own, that's when you're going to respond and polish it to be a poem that you can have for your own use and your own entertainment, or you can submit to publications and magazines. The Beat poet Allen Ginsberg said, "First words, best words," and that's what the idea is when you react and then you respond. What you want to do is recognize that all the rules you've ever been taught in grammar school, grade school, high school, college, none of it applies when you're reacting to a writing prompt. So you're not going to worry about syntax, spelling. You're not going to worry about punctuation at all. You're just going to write it down. And that doesn't mean that all of your thoughts are going to go into a poem. You're going to be very selective about what you use, but to get the idea down, because also if it's a longer response that you have, those words are going to be put maybe into a prose poem. So it takes more on the format of a paragraph or even a full page of text. So we can talk about that more later. For this initial warm-up, what I'd like you to do is look at this photograph, and it's a person standing at Lake Erie with their arms open wide. And we have this beautiful lake in our region. Now, if you don't live or reside really close to the Presque Isle, to the peninsula, or to Lake Erie, perhaps you live by a body of water, a pond, like Lake Pleasant. There are lots of streams and creeks and tributaries in this region as well. So you imagine yourself by a body of water and just look at this, ask yourself, what are the feelings, emotions, or some of the reactions you have to this photograph? And take about 5 minutes to jot down some thoughts. We're going to talk about traditions that build up families. And by families, we mean maybe your blood relatives, but maybe also a close group of friends that you treat as family. And what are some of the traditions that you have with your family? Do, like some people have the same school that their grandparents and their parents, and it might be a school right here in Erie, or it may be a university, a high school, or an elementary school. So, which brings to mind reunions. Families do come together and maybe they play a favorite sport, and they play kickball or football every time they get together for a family reunion. Maybe you have a weekly session where you Skype with family members that live out of town so that you feel close and connected to each other. So take about 5 minutes, write down any reactions you have to the idea of building family. And I want to say this as well, if for some reason right now you don't have those kind of connections, or you feel like you've had them in the past and don't have them right now, go ahead and express that, react to that as well, because that'll give you information that you can use for poetry, for essays, for prose poems, and it's self-informing. So go ahead, no one else is going to be looking at it except you. What we're looking at now is making memories for, say you meet new family members for the first time, and you do things for the first time, say cutting down a Christmas tree, or going to a church or a temple service, doing some other tradition with a family or as a family for the first time. And how does that inform your experience, that you're just learning something, or you're seeing the dynamics of the other people there? What are the skills that you bring to it? What are some of the funny stories that come of it? What are some of the heartache that might be associated with doing something for the first time as a family? And those traditions, maybe we never made, for example, gingerbread cake, gingerbread house. And tried to make one with my daughters, and the ceiling fell through. And so that's a funny story that we have. We now use better icing so the construction holds up and whatnot. But look at different times a year that you might have the opportunity to try something new, or be bringing someone into the family. You have a new family member. So go ahead and write about that for about 10 minutes. Give yourself the permission to react, unfiltered, on paper. Go ahead. Now we're going to talk about making memories, and it's an extended metaphor of it. And this photograph that you see here is a picture of my father. He was about 8 years old. He's standing on a porch of a second-story cold water flat on the east side of Erie. And what I want you to consider when you're looking at pictures like this, and it's in sepia, which is standard for that time before they had colored prints, colored photographs. What I'd like you to think about, because everyone has old photos like this at home, what are some of the stories that were passed down to you from your parents and your grandparents? And how are these stories shaping your life right now? The stories of how they may have come to America, or maybe they lived here already. Many of our parents and grandparents came around the turn of the century, so 100 years ago, and settled in this region, plus or minus 20 or 40 years. So from different parts of Europe. And my father's family came from Eastern Europe. And he's looking out over the street And what are the stories that your aunts, uncles, your grandparents, your own parents told you about their childhood? And some of them may be very stark. I know my grandmother died when my father was in 7th grade. And he took care of her, and the nuns would bring him work to make sure he stayed in school and stayed up to the standards, the educational standards, but he was her care provider at that time, and it was a sad time for their family. And she passed away while he was still in grade school. How do those stories shape the world in which you live today? How can stories be retold to future generations as lessons to build character rather than stories of infliction, victimization, or continued pain? Think of the silver lining within a given story and rewrite one or more stories you heard from your youth. Take about 10 minutes to do this. We're going to talk now about traditions or activities that build confidence. Now, here in this picture is a woman that appears to have tattoos on her legs, and the tattoos indeed appear to be an Emily Dickinson poem. But are they really tattoos? And why would someone walk around with poem tattooed on their legs? We have to wonder, well, what these are stockings that my husband got me, and I wore them to a reading, and I wear them to readings in the winter time, and it's my tradition because I think it's fun. I think it's a fun thing to do because I've never been brave enough to have a tattoo. So what I'd like you to do is have your reaction and take 5 minutes to jot down your reaction to this photograph. Maybe talk about or think about some other things that you'd like to do just for fun to build up your confidence. Here we talk about traditions that build confidence. Have you ever had a time when you did something in spite of the fear you might have felt towards it? What are some ideas that you might have about venturing outside to ski, toboggan, skate, or walk on a frozen lake? During warmer months, it might mean ziplining, participating in a marathon run, or being quickly towed behind a motorboat as you water ski. Perhaps you would take a ride in a gondola of a hot air balloon. What I'd like you to do is to take 10 minutes and write about a tradition that you'd like to have or that you do have to build confidence. Sometimes we have traditions that create confidence that are instilled by funny stories. And if you look at this picture here, there's two people that are really cracking up. They're in a restaurant setting, and sometimes, especially if people are very shy, they can feel intimidated about really building confidence through talking. And a lot of times when you write poetry, you share it in public and go to public readings. So to break the ice, if that has happened, where you have a situation where someone, and you know, everybody's had a situation where somebody has told a joke and you just think it's funny and you're laughing out loud, right? LOL. So you're just losing it. What I'd like you to do is take about 2 minutes and jot down a time when somebody told something funny, and a group, maybe it's just you and another person, or a whole big group just lost it and just really laughed and enjoyed life. Write about that, because the moment that a person is shy, or the moment a person isn't thinking about himself or herself, and just lets a good belly laugh out, then that's when confidence is born, because you're just enjoying and being in the moment. So take about 2 minutes and jot down some ideas and react to that photograph. There are traditions that build confidence just from the act of trying something new and going outside of one's comfort level. So when you do a public speaking engagement, for example, if you write and read a poem in public at open mic readings, or you're learning new skills like throwing pottery, that can build a lot of confidence. Initially, the activity may make you feel unsteady, uneasy, or stressed out. But if you take a few moments and just know that what you're doing is something that's going to build confidence, then you might enjoy the activity more. I'd like you to take about 5 minutes and write about an instance where you were very brave and tried something new. There are traditions that build community. When you look at this photograph here, there's a large circle of women lying on their backs on the floor, looking up at a camera, and it appears to be after a retreat. Well, when we take time to build up a community, we in turn further build our confidence, and we build our own confidence, and we build up the confidence of those around us as well. Whether we take retreats, classes, or take part in a formal ritual, community building is essential to a strong community. Take about 5 minutes and write about an experience where you experienced an activity that promoted confidence through community work. Whether with humans or a herd of deer as shown here, we can build confidence through group activity. Here is one example at a local zoo. There are so many groups that create a community. Dance, plays, musicals, vocal and musical concerts, and recitals. When was the last time you either performed or enjoyed a performance in Erie County? Take 5 minutes to write about that. Sometimes when we are willing to risk looking foolish, making a mistake, or feeling vulnerable, we hold the key needed to encourage others to open to community building events. Write for 10 minutes about how you encourage others to join a group, be themselves, or provide for those who are in need of basic essentials. How did it make you feel? Now we're going to look at some steps for creating songs. First, you're going to pick out one of the exercises that we covered and circle all of the vivid words you wrote. Look for nouns and verbs that show specific person, place, or thing, or action or movement. Secondly, songs are based on romanticism and contain vivid imagery that is often in a fantasy or Gothic setting in nature or in an urban space. So you're going to consider those. Consider nursery rhymes as a traditional form of song, such as Victor Hugo's Good Night, children's bedtime poem, which goes, good night, far flies the light, but still God's love reigns above, making all bright. Good night, good night. Number 4, pull out 5 of those words and write them on the top of a fresh piece of paper. Number 5, see what relationship the words have to one another. Do they sound similar when you say them aloud? Are they versions of the same word? And number 6, give the poem a title that adds meaning to the piece. Now we're going to talk about how to create free verse poems. And if you look at this illustration, this picture is about Roar on the Shore, and it's bicycles that are lined up along State Street. And you can take anything that you see in an urban environment and in a natural environment and write a poem about it. Look at this picture and we'll discuss how to create free verse poems. First, choose one of the reaction pieces you wrote in class. Second, circle all the vivid words. Third, choose at least 10 of them. 4, look for patterns in those words, such as, do any of them rhyme? Do any of them begin or end with the same letter? Do any of them sound like another word, like bird, word, tired, trance, hull, hull? Number 5, working with these images, begin a conversation with the image and ask, what are you trying to tell me? Write the response using some of the devices that you noted above, such as rhyme, alliteration, ononyms. I must note at this point that you do not need to rhyme at all in any free verse poem to make it correct. Number 6, give the work a title that adds meaning to the piece.